the work that I do, what I'm interested in, have been for the last 20, 25 years, are more the applied principles, things that actually seem to work. So, whereas I may have started, when I was in sales and management, thinking, why are some people more successful than others? Why, with equal training, they seem to be equally skilled. Some people seem to consistently get better results than others. So my version, if you like, of how to create change, or my take on that, is just being observed. It's what seems to make a difference when you talk to people about how they affect their result or affect their performance. So, whether it's mindset and behavior, the reason I started to get interested in that was it seems to be relevant. People that perform really well in varying circumstances, business, sports, whatever the discipline is, seem to be able to influence themselves so they can access resourceful mindsets in very challenging circumstances. And provided they have the relevant skills, that gives them a good enough chance to succeed. It's not enough just to be good, it would appear. The fact that someone's got ability and skill and talent is great, but that doesn't predetermine their success. It's a bit like if you go to a golf club and you go to the driving range, you'll see people there with a bit of skill and ability and talent, and they've warmed up and they're consistently hitting the ball down the centre of the driving range. And then you follow them to the first tee and put a crowd of people around them watching, put a bit of money on it, and all of a sudden you see a very different level of performance there compared to the first tee. And you go, well, how does that happen? They were very, very talented and skilled over here, but it's not showing up there. And there's a reason for that. So there has to be a shift in their mindset. As humans, we can adapt and evolve. The interlocking difference between a business and an individual are how teams operate, who works with who and how well they work together. And influencing that, I think is quite interesting, because if you can get, and I say tribes loosely, but it's the entity of clusters of people working effectively together, you can affect an organization. An organization in and of itself, it's a lot of people, and it's too many people, in fact, to be able to influence quickly. So it has to be resistant to change, because it's too big. Trying to get 10, 15, 20 plus 100,000 people to do something different, that's going to take some time. The individual himself can change. So how do you get smaller groups, right? 100, 150, it could be a region, it could be a division. That bit is much more manageable. And I think there are three things you have to do. One, you've got to excite the individual. So the individual's got to be thinking, this change is important to me. The second thing you have to do is then engage clusters, groups of people. So these, inverted commas, tribes. If you can get these groups of people engaged in the change process, that's more than an individual now. Now you've got groups working together, and that can influence. You can influence each other. So peer pressure will kick in. Different patterns of behaviour will form, because that's what teams seem to do. And then if you can influence enough of those teams, you then start to affect the organisation. So you go from an individual, this is important to me, to engaging groups, to embedding. So excite, engage, embed. Embed is where the new patterns of behaviour just start to evolve and form of themselves, and that creates sustainable change. So any great leader will have clarity around that. They'll be mindful about, so what is the vision of this entity, this organisation, whether that's an SME, and there could be 20 people or 20,000 people. The person that we're led by is the one that provides that vision for us, and that may or may not be the CEO. It may well be that I never see the CEO. I'm working in a team of 15 people, and my manager is my leader. So whoever's leading, the question is there clarity around what this end goal is, this vision? And then they had to then, again in their communication, have clarity around, well, we know where we want to get to. We know what the desired state at the end might be, but how are we going to get there? And this is really, I think, interesting, looking at companies now, because they may know where they are and where they want to get to. But because things are changing so fast, and there's been such a lot of change in the last sort of 5, 10 years, we don't always know exactly how we're going to do it from start to end. We may know how to get to the first point, but then the world changes, the model changes, the market changes. So we've got to have an adaptable strategy to change our approach. And it's a bit like, a nice analogy we often hear is like with whitewater rafting. I know where I am and I know where I'm going, but frankly, I don't exactly know how, because I don't know quite what's going to happen. It has to be applied, it has to be relevant, it has to impact the result. So everything we talk about, we'll test, and we'll judge by results. We'll see if this content stacks up in the context of their business. And it's all going to be, and also it's all based on what they know, because I don't want to walk in and suggest that I'm going to come up with the ideas to change their business. That's their job. You know, my challenge is to provoke their thinking to the extent where they'll question the patterns. They'll challenge the patterns that are formed within the business, and see if they can influence the way both they respond and their teams respond, you know, to drive business forward. So it's very applied, in the moment, focused on real-term results that are relevant to them.